The Smoking Glass Hour believes in giving back and giving credit where credit is due. Our number one goal is to make a difference. The music you hear on the Smoking Glass Hour comes from Purple Planet Music. They can be found at www.purple-planet.com. Go check them out. It's time to take back control of our society. Today's world requires an open and honest discussion about the current events. On the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, our goal is to engage people from different walks of life into a healthy discussion, creating a positive outcome. When it comes to global events, tune in to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on Monday nights at 7:30. We don't just listen to the news, we bring you the news. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. We are honored to have you as a guest tonight and want to thank each of you for your faithful support. Without further delay, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Baron Glass. Mr. Glass, take it away.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, moving from 2015 to 2016. 3 years strong. We've been on social media. We've been on Blog Talk. We've been on Spilken, and we've been on the move ever since. We've been trying to make sure that our number one goal is to make a difference. And we believe that when people talk, we have the opportunity to be heard. We also know that 90% of the main mass media is controlled by 6 individual corporations. And their number one goal is to distort the messages that you hear. Their number one goal is to control what it is that you hear and how you go about your day-to-day operation based on the things that you hear. So we want to say Happy New Year to everybody that's out there listening. We know that everyone has had a wonderful, wonderful year, because had you not, you would not be here tonight. So we want to first say thanks to all of those who have supported us, who have followed us, who have encouraged us, who have engaged us, and also who have inspired us to continue to go on. Just a few housekeeping things before we get directly into the discussion. The website used to be www.thesmokingglasshour.com. It is now www.thesmokingglasshour.wordpress.com. You can call in and listen live right now if you're out there listening at 773-897-6398. Again, 773-897-6398. 2016, our focus will be social marketing. Our message will be social justice. Our message will be human rights. Our message will be civil rights. Our message will be gays and lesbian homosexuality rights. Our message will be all those constitutional rights that are afforded to us by the Constitution of the United States, where it says liberty and justice for all. Our all is going to include the 1% plus the 99%. We're not going to exclude anybody, because once again, we believe when our message is heard, we have the opportunity to make a difference. Tonight, you are cordially invited. We encourage you to call in and join the conversation and engage with our guests tonight. Our topic will be the fabric of military families. Our guest is Dr. Rita Spilken, CEO and founder of Our House Foundation. Before I go any further, let me just read a little information about Dr. Spilken. She starts out by saying, who is Rita Spilken? Who is she? Upon reflection, I've asked myself that very same question and more. Who am I? So I want to add just a little bit to this. Who are you that's out there listening? Why am I here? And most importantly, What is my purpose? Though it feels like many lifetimes and I have been called an old soul, I've only had the pleasure of living just this one. As a true Brooklyn-born native from New York, I was the third of 4 children. My mother's parental occupation served us all with caring interest in what we were interested in, and all was done with love and devotion. Dad served with honor on the New York City Police Department force. When I consider my formative years, my memory still revisits the Museum of Arts, where my mom used to take me for drawing and painting lessons when I was 6 or 7 years old. Then immediately after, she took me straight to the piano, her piano teacher, for music lessons, as she must have realized I was multi-talented in both drawing and painting, playing the piano, and other gifted abilities as well. In reflection, I realized that her introducing me to the arts, music and science, clearly shows me there was intention and irrefutable evidence throughout my life of how everything minus our egos can live, work, and play in balance, harmony, and abundance. I do in all things see God as the master weaver, and we his woven cloth. Through many years of study in medicine, psychology to physiology and chemistry, to development of a peaceful curriculum for high and middle school, everything I have excelled and loved doing now makes total sense. In 2004 and 2005, realizing there would be a human tsunami returning to our shores of the men and women of our military, I began the Our House Foundation in Springfield, Missouri. We are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to help rebuild the shattered lives of our military men and women who have returned from deployment due to post-traumatic stress disorder. Since that time, I have been here to help our veterans heal from living shattered lives and later on military sexual trauma. Now, in 2015, the Our House Foundation will include a branch. This is a national outgrowth of the Our House Foundation. The Athena Project will truly be a culmination of all I've learned and have done. It will be the heartbeat and the paintbrush beauty of our maker's involvement. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Rita Spilken. Dr. Spilken, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing well, Baron, and I want to thank you and your administrative assistant, Melinda, for doing such a great job on my bio. And there's not much more to add except for 3 short pieces of information before we get into your program. And the first is that I and my board of the Our House Foundation want to wish you and all of your listeners a happy, most of all, healthy New Year's. Second is that www.ourhousefoundationorg's website is in the process of being redone and updated, but it still needs some time and a little bit of work. So in the next few weeks, with more pictures, more information, a blog page, and very exciting things, we will have that up.
Okay.
So I would be disingenuous and also doing a service to you and your great program and to your listeners without your permission. With your permission, I want you and your program and your listeners, so with your permission, I want to give an overview of the pressures befalling the family of our military men and women of our armed forces.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. And if you have questions, or maybe, if your people listening have questions, please, feel free, and we can get through this. So,
yeah, Dr. Spilken.
So we talk about our
Yeah, before you go, let me just make sure everybody out there understand. We're going to go through some commentary, conversation, you and I. And then at some point during the broadcast, we're going to open up the lines and we're going to allow callers that are out there, if they have any questions, comments, concerns, if they just want to be heard, represent the state that they're from, we're going to allow them to do it. So at some point during the broadcast, we will open up the lines. So it's now in your hands, the fabric of military family, Dr. Rita Spilken, CEO and founder of Our House Foundation.
Thank you, Baron. The pressures today befalling the families of our men and women of our armed forces is tremendous. And when we talk about the military families, it would not be serving you justice without giving a short historical perspective, and it would fall short of the enormity of problems facing these young soldiers and their families. Therefore, I believe with a grasp of understanding of their day-to-day problems, you too will get on the bandwagon and help. I also want to address very briefly what societal factors, and that includes pressures, surround and cloak and choke these military families that are caught in the middle, and how bravely they are facing each day. So please understand that what I'm saying here, I've taken directly from quotes and a multitude of hours of research, reading, and cross-referencing, so that I don't present something that is just a fly-by-night sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So while I'm copiously taking notes, I do that, and for me, I could personally understand the dynamics of where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
So without ado, we will talk about the societal pressures, and that's the historical connotations as well. Before World War II, most women stayed at home wanting and waiting to be married, and those with children did stay home, while the men were the breadwinners, and that was our traditional family unit. It was like Beaver and the Nelson family, same thing. It was mama and dad went out to work, and kids stayed home, and they grew, and everyone was happy. Before, during, and after World War II, the government called upon the women in these traditional families to come and help with the war effort. Therefore, we had Rosie the Riveter, excuse me, and the Crackerjack boy dressed in a Navy uniform. Do you remember that,
Mm-hmm.
Aaron?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is the time period that was truly the beginning of our women in the workforce. Now, there was a time period during Prohibition that the speakeasies, had women coming in there, and they just acted, without conscience, what they wanted to do. But this is not the same thing as the women coming out of the homes with the families and working. During and after the World War II, with our men coming home, the women did not want to stay at home anymore. And they couldn't, as a family unit, having gotten used to the luxuries afforded by two salaries. So because the economy started to pick up and the women enjoyed being out of the house, being with people their own age, talking with people, learning, and earning the extra money, they never went back to their job, so to speak, their primary job of watching the kids. Many did stay home and still do, which is a wonderful thing. That's their job. Other women feel that to bring in extra money, because the economy is very expensive to live in, it's a necessity to have two family workers. So, and the little extra goes for vacations, school clothing, etc. At that point, there were many men brought up in traditional family units that felt threatened, that they were the head of the household and their status was being eroded and threatened. That carries over, by the way, to the military, where it's the old boy syndrome, where women should stay at home. What are they doing? April 19th of 1995. Do you remember that day, by the way?
No, I don't, Dr. Spilken.
Okay, that was 30 years ago when homegrown terrorists what was going to happen, and is happening now. But with increasing frequency and deadly frequency, within the past 15, 20 years, our country has been facing this crisis and more crises. And within the few years in between to recoup, the society has had to regather and regroup from these major offenses on our soil, such as the Oklahoma bombing, to the ramming of their planes into the Twin Towers in 2001. Then, all of a sudden, we became aware that there is more than just us in the world. And that begins the major military push. Now, during this time, the military happenings were throughout the world and are challenging our families and their families. Just think of the Twin Towers, then much later, no, not too much, but much later, France, Belgium, Israel, and now the United States is being continually threatened with the same things happening. Since January 27th, 1973, there has not been a draft, as the Vietnam War was drawing to a close. So the military had begun to let women into the ranks to supplement the population of fighting forces. That doesn't negate that since the revolutionary days, we've had women serving in our military as nurses, as medics, and they also had to dress the part of a man to fight on the front lines, and they did. The women have served in our military honorably and have been part of the war effort since that time. So the women now ask, and the men ask, why now do you want to join the military? Okay? And what I can say is that overwhelmingly the women say it's for the same reason that the men are joining. First, to escape their dead-end towns or jobs. Two, to escape a dysfunctional home life. To possibly pay for college or to follow their ideals. They need a job or making it a career. They want to protect their country and their family because most of the women have one or two children. Many are single, but they still have children. They would have a career and a status and money coming in, and they would be able to get an education once they got finished with the war, and eventually pay off debts. And there's a quote that I would like to say that came out in May 6th of 2009, and it was written by Helen Benedict, and she said, this is a direct quote, and it was from The Nation, which is a wonderful supplement that comes out, and it's not a supplement, it's a magazine, and it's called The Plight of the Women Soldiers. The ban comes from the military, from the Pentagon to the troops on the ground, and has been very slow to recognize the service these women perform, or even to see them as real soldiers. The male-dominated military society is permeated with the age-old stereotypes of women as passive sex objects who have no business fighting and cannot be relied upon in battle. Ironically, in a 2005 Gallup poll reported by the military itself, belies all of this. From the military's own reporting, they say they favored women having served as the ground troops who are doing the most fighting in the fronts, on the front. So during World War II, there was a total of 350,000 women that served our U.S. Military with great honors, but were not considered part of the military. And between 1997 and last year, there have been over 300,000 women who have proudly served in our military, which leads us then to the military culture. So what you see, what you hear, is a don't-tell culture. Now, apply what you're going to be hearing from me to a family. The husband or the wife come home, and it's don't tell, don't see, what you see, what you've heard, you keep quiet. I also counsel the men and women of our military besides being the CEO and the founder of the organization. And I'll tell you, it's extremely difficult to talk with them because they don't want to loosen up and tell what happened to them and who was involved and where. This is against military protocol. But, and it's understood that if it was someone who may be a spy or getting information out of them, it would be.
Now Dr. Spilken, when you say that it's difficult to talk, are you referring to even after they either have been discharged, honorably discharged, served their time ran out? You're talking about in general, once they leave that population and come back to civilian population, whatever has taken place, they're still not talking about all of the traumatic situation that they've encountered. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And that, Baron, is the crux of the matter. Mm-hmm. It's a huge part. And they carry this around in their minds, in their bodies, in their ears, in their eyes, what they see, what they hear. There was an incident recently of a man from this area who was walking down, and he was, I believe, in Vietnam. He was walking down a main street at one of our smaller towns, and he saw a samurai soldier coming at him with a sword. He could swear on that. Of course, his mind was playing tricks, and this is 2004, 5, 6. It was not anything there except for his PTSD kicking in. Mm-hmm. And he had to be sedated, and he was helped after that. But he never, ever told anyone about this.
So Dr. Spilken, with what you're saying, because like I said, I try to make sure that those who can help in whatever way that they have the opportunity to. Now, let's take one of your local state representative, one of your local state senators, or either United States Senator or United States Congressman. Do you have anybody that's contacting these people by way of letter, flooding their offices with calls and things like that? Because, see, I relate the veterans that come back home, and you've heard me say this before, to the forgotten citizen, which they should never be forgotten. Number one, because they have gone and served their country. They have fulfilled the commitment of their contract. And then when they come back here, in most cases, or in some cases, they don't get the commitment fulfilled from the government standpoint. So what is it that the Our House Foundation is doing? And what is it that you'd like other people to join in, not just in Missouri, but across the 50 states and abroad, to help you help these individuals that you're talking about tonight?
Well, if I can finish, maybe they may get a bigger view, a more global view. And this not only pertains to us in this whole big world, Baron. There are only 9 countries that employ female soldiers. But that doesn't negate the fact that per population now, per the numbers in the United States military, more men have been raped than women. But per percentage, because there are fewer women, the percentage is higher for the women that have been raped, assaulted, murdered, etc. So what I have to say will help, actually, with your answer. I can tell that you want your audience to be active, proactive. So I did bring along with me some things to avoid talking about when you have military personnel coming into your home, mm-hmm. your husband, your son, your daughter. And some of these questions should not be asked, and I do have some questions that should be asked, mm-hmm. so that you set up a foundation of respect for them and of wanting to know but not pushing them to know, because they're not going to tell you mm-hmm. until they feel safe. So, and I'm glad you asked these questions, because please come back to these questions with me as the program finishes.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, so when a woman, and in relationship to your question, whatever is taught there stays there in the military.
Mm-hmm.
It's tight, it's secretive, and it's a forever memory in that man's or woman's life. So the military strips these young men and women of their bad habits, so to speak, and even their thinking, which may interfere with their safety eventually when they go into combat, or their platoon or their group safety. That's only part of what happens. When they come home, this is still a mentality of group rather than single individual. They do not know how to get along in society because they have to start thinking for themselves. Now, excuse me, during World War I and II, we have had blast injuries, and the violence surrounding these brutalities of war, number one, never was spoken out loud after leaving the battlefield, and the outlandish acting out behavior that we thought was abnormal, actually what we now call post-traumatic stress disorder, because they can't tell anyone. They couldn't tell anyone, and they still don't. So what they cannot talk about with their friends, not talk about with their families either. So they come home with a built-in cloaking device which spreads over the family. And this cloaking device stops the family from talking out of turn to others. And sometimes this bizarre behavior that families in the 40s saw, it was called shell shock. Now it's called post-traumatic stress. So since the end of the Korean War, a new kind of war was begun with high-pressured weapons, allowing harm to our soldiers not even near the explosion site. Were you aware of that?
No,
and most people, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I wasn't aware of it.
Okay, most people aren't. So you're in the majority, Baron. During the latest conflicts in Iraq, Afghanistan, 97, 98, 99, and onward, a blast injury is so overwhelming, and it is one of the most common beginnings and etiology of wounds, and the incidence of survivors with brain injury has increased. To talk a little bit about it, there's the primary blast injury, which is caused by an overpressurization wave, meaning that the person could be standing 50 to 100 feet away from the actual blast, but the pressurized zone, the waves of pressure, will hit them and go through their bones, and will make tiny holes filled with gas in the liver, in the spleen, all over, in the brain. So the waves from these overpressurized IEDs caused traumatic brain injury directly, literally. It's so forceful that these high-powered blasts, that they go past bones and organs from the service members' bodies, and then they're out, leaving uncomfortable feelings, feelings of and sensations of not remembering because it affects their brain. And the brain is very clearly vulnerable to the second blast, which is caused by flying debris and fragments. And of course the tertiary blast injury, which is being thrown up by the blast of wind and penetrating in blood trauma, which is not unlike head injuries caused by other explosions. So post-traumatic stress disorder is better understood, but evidently all of these modalities, all of these ways of current treatments known are not reaching the majority of women and men that have returned from the hotspots around the world. But as you look at the soldiers who have been in combat, like one of our friends, Bobby Henline, God bless him, he's had 60 or 65 surgeries already, and he was rescued from a burning, what do they call them? These V-shaped vehicles, V-shaped at the bottom to withstand explosions. But he was set on fire. Out of the 5 men that were in that tank, and that's what they're called, tanks, only one survived, and that was him, and only because his savior ran from the back of the convoy to the front and pulled him out, and he was burning, and he put out the fires. And Bobby now, God bless him, calls himself a well-baked comedian, and he really goes around entertaining and being a comic. And yet, when he first came home, children on the streets of where he lives used to run and scream with terror. That's how disfigured he was. But his mission is to help those who didn't survive that blast. So we have some really, really strong, wonderful men and women who live on when others in their group did not. They're just amazing men and women. All of this would lead us to the topic of family. So you're getting some idea of the mental, physical, emotional, and we didn't even contact the sexual abuse yet that is suffered in the military, and the aftermath of the path of destruction of the self, and of course the inherent problems that are caused when it's brought home to roost in the family. So, any questions from you at this point? Because there's more.
Yeah, well, Dr. Spilken, we're looking at about 8:03 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we're going to 9 to 8:30. So I'm not sure you're getting. I want to make sure that you get whatever information that you want out before we actually engage individuals in the topic. So we're looking at about 27 minutes left in the broadcast. So you tell me how you want to go, because typically, I would just engage with you with Q&A so people can kind of get understand. But I want to make sure that you get, again, as much information out about your particular program as you'd like.
Okay, well, we are airing our program to the Athena Project, which will be helping the women at first, the women of our military that have been sexually assaulted. Military. Okay? Instead of looking at a wound as a physical manifestation of what happened, Rita Kawasaki started thinking about the wounds as soul wounds. And apparently, it resonates deeply with the men and women of our military from home. And these soul wounds, there are certain incidences, certain wounds a person feels more deeply than others. For example, these wounds cannot be fixed with Band-Aids. For example, the lone wolf, the assassin, the teen shooter, Sandy Hook, shootings of the children, the rapists. What exactly is a soul wound? And your audience can identify this with their own wounds. It doesn't have to be militarily involved. So these wounds, these are caused by incidences which are accompanied by great, tremendous emotional pain that hits us so directly as it scars our souls. Now, thankfully, most of the men and women for a higher power. They haven't connected with that when they see the death and destruction. So the therapists start talking about soul wounds, which they do connect with. So the soul wounds is a personal betrayal by a friend or a lover, unexpected attacks from a trusted source, cruelty and violence that shatters our confidence in our own capacity to understand our own existence. The people who are fighting don't care about personal. They don't care about a God above that we care about. They have a different set of values, and none of which we understand. So the soul wound can be used, and there's these books now that many therapists are using to bring out the best of the men and women. You can't replace what's already lost or what's happened, but you can help them understand their own feelings of what has happened, because many of them have seen comrades blown up, pieces of them everywhere. I mean, they've been through a lot, but everyone has been through a lot in their own lives. So if you can, people listening, Baron, if you have caring enough, in that respect, please pick up a book from Rita Kawasaki. There's a gentleman, I can't think of his name offhand. This will help not only ourselves for healing, but for the men and women of our military who come home. Now, I want to go back to, and we haven't even talked about the family, but these things, the soul wounds, can be helpful when dealing with a person who has a soul wound. Mm-hmm. That means our family. What not to say to the returning military personnel is questions like, did you ever kill anybody? Or what was the nastiest or most disgusting thing you've ever seen? And people ask these questions of the military men and women. Another question is, are you glad to be home? Consider for a moment what that could be saying to these people. Mm-hmm. Are you glad that you're no longer in a situation where you're going to get shot at, missiles being fired, et cetera, et cetera? And these men and women are not glad to be home because they feel that they're letting their buddies down. So another question is, how are you doing? The question like that only needs to be asked once, and that is, are you willing to stay and listen to the answer? So most likely the veteran doesn't know how they are doing because it's a whole brand new ballgame when they come home, and they definitely do not know how to express this. So it's okay just to let them know that you're there. Some of the questions that you might want to ask them is, or are, let me hold on for a second, ask them how things have been for them since coming home. How has their marriage been? How have they been dealing with the transition from post-deployment to home life? If they have children, how is that going? And as you cover these topics, you would, with the other person, open the doors for them to communicate what they need to. This way you can assess their needs, develop a prayer list, see if their needs can be aided by a well-known organization or church. And that's where we come in, because I personally am the only one that's certified, has a degree in clinical psychology. So over the past 10 years, I have taken care of 750 men and women and or their families. That's a lot of people for one person. Mm-hmm. And it's heavy.
So Dr. Spilken, did we lose you, Doctor? I believe we may have lost her call, but what we're going to do is we're going to just pause briefly, and we're going to talk once again to Dr. Rita Spilken, CEO and founder of Our How Foundation. We're talking tonight about certain things that are going on in the military once these individuals get out. We're talking about brutality, sexual abuse, and things like that, the psychological aspect of things that are going on with these particular individuals. And that's why it's very important to get involved in the social aspect of the community, the social aspect of the state, so we can pretty much make things better for those around the country and abroad, because we don't know what these people experience when they go versus when they come back home. Yes, Dr. Spilken, you back? I don't know if she's having difficulties with her phone or not. So what we're going to do right now is, if you're out there listening, just hold on for 1 second. We're going to pause briefly and have a commercial break, and we'll be right back. We're looking at about 8:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Just hold the line, and we'll be right back.
We can be most effective when we are engaged in the political process, and there's no time like the present. One of our main goals is effective advocacy through active participation from you. Those who stand for nothing will fall for anything. Our efforts to keep you engaged and informed as to the importance of current events happening locally and abroad started 2 years ago. Our number one goal is to make a difference. We need you. Join us at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass.
Does Stokey Stokes sell cars that are high mileage with no warranty? Stokey Stokes, if my credit is bad, should I just give up? What if I have a cosigner? What if I still owe money on the car? What if I have a paid for trade and or money down? Can I come in? Okay! Go down and see Anthony Stokey Stokes at Steve Landers Kia at 4600 South University and let him make you a deal. He's the deal maker. He said that if you're thinking about going to another dealership for a better deal, Anthony Stokey Stokes at Steve Landers Kia said, call him today at 501-952-2868, 501-952-2868, or go online at Steve Landers Kia dealership in Little Rock, Arkansas. Put Anthony Stokes as your salesperson, or go by the 4600 South University Steve Landers Kia location. Anthony Stokey Stokes, the deal maker.
We are back broadcasting live with the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. Tonight we're talking to Dr. Rita Spilken, CEO and founder of Our House Foundation. Dr. Spilken, are you back yet? Dr. Spilken, are you there? Well, I'll tell you what we'll do is, I believe she's having some problems with her actual phone line, and I'm not sure what it is. Her line is open, so we know that there's nothing wrong on our end. If we have any callers that are out there, we're talking about the fabric of military families with Dr. Spilken. You can feel free now to engage in the conversation, question, comment, whatever it is that you'd like to say. You may do so at this time.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, how you doing?
Yeah, I had a question that's been haunting me.
Okay.
We know that rape is a war crime.
Mm-hmm.
So why are these not being prosecuted by an international commission or the United States government as war crimes?
Mm-hmm. And caller, that's one of the reasons why I was asking Dr. Spilken, what is it that these elected officials are doing? Because we are the people, and the people decides what happens, whether these people go back in office or whether they stay out of office. And I think you ask a very important question. So if there's anybody else that's out there who'd like to engage in that particular conversation, they may do so, because that is a very pertinent question. Why are these individuals not being punished? Why is the law not being applied to them? Because they are actually doing crimes against humanity, which in my opinion is one, if not the worst crime that can be committed upon an individual, because you force a person to do something that they choose or refuse not to do. We got another caller that's out there.
Darren?
Yes. Hello?
This is Charles Stapleton. I'm a state council president for the Vietnam Veterans of America.
How you doing?
And I'm doing well.
Okay. Thanks for calling in.
Every April. Yeah, thank you. Every April, we go up to Washington, D.C.,
Uh-huh.
and we do what we call storming the hill. And you asked earlier about what we can do to get congressmen and the senators involved in this.
Uh-huh.
When we go up there in April, they call us pit bulls up there, because we go in there and we talk about PTSD.
Uh-huh.
We talk about MST, and trying to get these congressmen and senators more involved on this one particular issue about these people getting prosecuted.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then also there was something else that Dr. Spilken talked about, was the guys coming back from war zones and feel like they're letting their buddies down, and call that, I have it too myself, as survivor's guilt. So, Dr. Spilken is putting a wonderful program together, and she has asked me to go on to her board as an advisor, and I told her I would.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, Dr. Spilken, we're back. Hold on just 1 second. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah.
This is me, Rita.
Yeah. Hold on, Dr. Spilken. I got another call in. Hold on.
Well, okay, good. Okay.
But Dr. Spilken, this is Charlie. I was just talking to Barron about some of the things you brought up and some of the things he brought up also. But I told him that the congressmen and senators, we go up there every April and talk to them about PTSD and MST. And there was a question that came out a while ago about why aren't these people being prosecuted? So I will end my statement, and maybe you can answer that.
Hey, Charles, before you go, can you give us the specific date or dates, or at some point get back with us, Storming the Hill dates? Because what we'll do is, if at all possible, we can do the live broadcast from you guys that's there. We can get with you guys and set it up so everybody can be a part of it. Now, I'll tell you what I'd like for everybody that's out there to listen. It appears that Citizen United allowed a lot of money to be dumped in by corporations to these politicians. Right. Let us, we the people, start to donate our nickels and dimes that we throw away and create our own lobbyists, so when you guys go and storm the Hill, we can have not only voices, but we can have money, because it appears that money moves mountains in Washington, D.C., and if we can't get these politicians to speak on our behalf, we need to move them out of their seat and bring somebody else in that's willing to listen to you guys' concerns.
Well, it was suggested that we put more military men and women in Washington. And these young people are very, very strong, and they cannot be bent to the direction that many of these people come in and try to buy. And they have succeeded to buy people in Washington. And the men and women are suffering very badly. And that goes to the VA. And last year their budget was $342 million for incidentals and gifts and bonuses. This year it was cut in half. But can you imagine how many people would be served if they stopped giving bonuses of $8,000 to the top few and to the underlings, and start putting it where it should be put, and that is toward direct services for our men and women that are suffering.
Dr. Spilken.
I mean, the VA should be overhauled, honest to God.
Must ask you a question. The same thing you just said. I deal with education specifically, and every time there are budget cuts, education is always the number one thing. But when people are running for office, they always talk about they're going to save education. So it appears that the VA, if they're cut from $342 million in half, what does that say about them caring about our military service men and women?
Not much.
And if we know that they are saying not much, I think it's time for I think a revolution in some aspect needs to be created. And I'm talking about peaceful protest. I'm talking about people getting involved, because we shouldn't have to send our people overseas to fight. And then when they come back, they get less than nothing.
Well, you know what Bernie Sanders said? He said, if you're sending people over, you better make darn sure that you have money to help them. And if you don't have it, then don't send them.
Right.
Yep.
So,
and that's the truth of the matter. But the amount wasted on parties and conventions, etc., could be best served helping our men and women recover. Because you know what? The very act of what they're doing is corroding our military. I told you before, I told your audience, that more men are being raped. And rape is not a crime of passion. It's power and control. So, I have people that I've counseled, and two gentlemen. One who is a 40-year veteran first started talking about himself being raped 40 years ago, and his wife couldn't believe the difference when it finally came out.
Mm-hmm.
Second is a younger man, a big and these two guys are big and strapping. The younger man was assaulted by his sergeant over him and two other men to hold him down. He's 6'6",
mm-hmm.
strapping, good looking, and now he's but a shell of who he was. But he's coming back,
mm-hmm.
slowly but surely. But this has ripped the heck out of our military. And
right.
You know what? We give this thing, this test, and over 200,000 men and women have taken it, showing that the numbers that the VA comes out with,
mm-hmm.
rapes and sexual assaults and murders, is small compared to people taking this.
Dr. Spilken, do you feel that the VA somehow ends up being like mainstream media, which they distort the truth and prevent the public from actually knowing? Because I venture to say, if it's don't ask, don't tell, and these things happen, they're probably happening more so than people are aware. Would you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Dr. Spilken, we got a caller that's out there from Little Rock, Arkansas, that wanted to talk about the reason why they don't prosecute. Mr. Ongerio Cameron, are you out there?
Yes, I am. How you doing, Byron?
How you doing, Mr. Cameron?
Good to you. Doing fine. Happy New Year to you, Dr. Spilken. Happy New Year to you.
And to you too, Ongerio. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing fine, yes. To get back to your question about why they don't prosecute in the military, is, as you know, by the way, rape is one of the hardest questions, hardest things to prove in a court of law, even in a civilian court. In a military court, the other side of that coin is you have so many women who have falsely complained about it. What this do is it interferes, if they start prosecuting, it interferes with the recruiting element of it.
Mm-hmm.
To have a lot of young men not wanting to go, because a lot of these rapes take places when these people are drinking. They're out drinking and having fun, and it go wrong. And it's really hard to prove it at that
Well,
point.
the fact is, though, that in the military, Ongerio, there's no drinking. But, there's a saying from long ago, and that's absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is the case in the military. And there have just been 3 cases that I've just read about in the last week and a half, where men in very high positions don't act in a way that's becoming of their positions.
Mm-hmm.
And one or two of them include sexual assaults.
Right. And Dr.
They
Spilken,
don't get prosecuted. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry for cutting you off. I'm very disturbed, and the reason why I'm disturbed is because I come from a family of all women, and I'll be damned if I would want my 2 girls not to come forward, feeling that if they were to come forward, that somebody's gonna think that they're lying because somebody else in the past may have lied, or whatever the case may be. So, and this program, this broadcast, is 100% specifically in favor of women's rights. So again, what I'd like to know, and we may have to explore this a little bit more, I want to know what is it that can be done to mobilize people to get involved, because these forgotten citizens should not be forgotten. And if we know that this is taking place, then if we do nothing to try to step forward and at least let our voices be heard, I think we become part of the problem rather than the solution.
Well, before you were speaking to the head of the VVA,
mm-hmm.
the Vietnam Veterans of America,
mm-hmm.
and he is disgusted as well as you,
mm-hmm.
as me, and a lot of smaller people, not the guys up in Washington,
right?
But it's our mission to get women from all over the country, and we're starting. It's starting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe on the line is a woman who is from the Northwest, and I asked her to start rounding up women who've been marginalized, that have been raped and discarded,
mm-hmm.
and also the military has gotten rid of, because too much of the military is no good.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here thinking, if a woman was good enough to sign their name on the line and say, I will go and serve my country. Why is that same woman not good enough to come back and tell the truth if something happened to her that should not have happened?
Guess what? They do. Happens is that the man accused is usually chastised. He's giving a no. And then he's bumped up a notch in superiority. And then the woman gets kicked out of the military. She doesn't enjoy the benefits that could be for her had she not said anything. Women are being broadsided left and right. And there was a point where Senator Gillibrand, and I'm going to contact this woman.
Christine
She is
Gillibrand?
a fighter in the Senate. Gillibrand.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she introduced a bill in Congress, and it almost passed, and that would have taken the fox out of the hen house, taken the military out of control of all of these. Yes. Who am I talking with?
Yeah, I believe somebody's out there with a little back noise. Go ahead, Dr. Spilken.
Wonderful. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, a caller, did you have a question or a comment?
I'm an MSP survivor, and my father was retired military, and I'm fourth generation military, and I wanted to serve like my father did and have a lifetime career, and I was getting raped by 6 Army guys, and I was told if I would tell that they would cut me into pieces and scatter me in the artillery field, nobody would find me. I reported it. I had a full-blooded colonel of the OSI take me out in the hallway after I reported it and grabbed me by the elbow as he was escorting me out of the building, telling me, let me make this clear to you, airman. If you continue to press charges against these 6 soldiers with clean records, I will ensure that your life and your military career are hell. In my opinion, airman, women in the military are nothing more than legalized prostitutes. Do I make myself clear?
So
that's what they say.
And those guys left me for dead, and they got to continue. And one became an officer, and I got booted after I had my daughter who has cerebral palsy.
Let me ask you this, caller, and sorry that you had to go through what you went through, but thanks be to a higher power that you are able to talk about it now.
Right.
Let me ask you this. Since you have actually experienced this yourself, in your opinion, what are some of the things that you think we can do? I know one thing. I know the men that's in the military, we need to stand up and realize that if a crime is committed, it does not matter if it's committed by a male or whoever it is. We need to stand up, and we need to stand up for these women in their right. What is it that you feel we can do? I'm talking about when you multiply one person times 1,000, you got voices. What is it that you feel we can do to mobilize people to become more involved and really understand the culture of the military so we can start dissecting this problem and hopefully minimizing what's going on?
Get Senator Gillibrand's bill back on the Hill and get the chain of command out of the prosecution. Because once the chain of command sees that one of their good soldiers has raped a female, they push the female out of the way because he was a good soldier. It was a just bad night. You're supposed to forget about it. Move on.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been elected for 23 years, still presently elected. I love talking to all of those people on the Hill, all of those in the state houses or whatever. If you guys can get us the digest of the bill, of Christine Gillibrand's bill, we will try to reach out to their office, bring on their communications persons, or tell us exactly what it is that they're trying to do. Mainstream media, they're not going to give you guys this opportunity that you have tonight. They're not going to do it. And if they do, they're going to script it. And when you go off script, they're going to cut you off. And that's what I'm trying to get everybody to understand. This type of media broadcasting in the next 5 years will surpass everything that's going on. That's why we're trying to bring those everyday voices on programs like this so we can understand exactly what it is that's out there. Dr. Spilken, if we can get anybody that's out there to trace us that bill, get the digest of the bill, and let's bring this bill back up. Let's try to get other people involved, maybe the Legislative Black Caucus, maybe all of those other agencies that are out there. Go ahead.
It was stopped, not in the Congress, but it was stopped in the every state has its vote. Stopped from Missouri. I was furious. I'm now from Missouri, and I was absolutely disgusted.
Okay, stopped by who?
I think it was Senator Claire McCaskill.
Claire McCaskill from which she's one of the ranking Democrats that should not.
Betrayed us.
Yeah, go ahead.
He betrayed us.
Yeah, she should not be one that's out there stopping any bill
I agree.
that does anything to have any type of adverse effect on women. You know what we can do? We can contact Senator Claire McCaskill's bill. She betrayed the president a year or so ago, and I believe we have some turncoats that are in Washington. And that's why I'm saying, Dr. Spilken, I think you alluded to, we need to get these millennials involved in social justice, involved in politics, in public service, so they can go and represent, because these old war hawks that's there, it appears that the mentality that they have is still in the 1920s, where women were lesser than everybody else, black people were 3/5 of a whole person, and all of that stinking mentality, it still exists. So what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to get all of us who are alike, walk and join hands together. Doesn't matter the color. We're going to have to fight this war on our own turf in our own way. Dr. Spilken.
Well, I, in my own turf, has been fighting this war. I have not gotten very far, but you know what? Somewhat far is better than nothing.
Right.
And with people like Charles, who you spoke with, and this young lady who I know and is feeling her oats at this point, and I'm very proud of her, we will get somewhere. Because, you know what? From the west, from the north, from the south and east, we need women to rise up just like the guys have risen up and walk through Washington, 350, 250,000, and let Congress know that we're not going to take it.
Ontario.
It'd be nice if all the it'd be nice if all the survivors could stand on the steps of the White House and just say, "See, it happened to all of us." Instead of most of us, like me, sitting behind the shadows because we're too afraid to come out.
Ontario from Little Rock, Arkansas. Is that something that Mock could take a look at and perhaps start to engage in Little Rock, Arkansas, with other people in the surrounding areas to try to get this message out and let these voices be heard? Is that something that you guys can look into?
Absolutely, yes. We'd be glad to take a look into that. See where we can help and how we can assist Dr. Spilken in her goal to help veterans who have been wounded and who have maybe been raped or abused in any kind of way. And see, like the point I was trying to make earlier is when I was in the military, myself, and I saw this a lot of times, man. These women and these men, they would take advantage of these women. But they wouldn't be prosecuted. Wouldn't nothing even happen to them, because what I was always told is because they didn't want it to mess with the recruitment issue, because this is a male-dominated field. Still don't want women in there. They still don't want them in there. But that was the reason that they did it, and I bet you that that's still the reason that they do it. You said it earlier. It's a prejudice thing. It's kind of a male-dominated society, and women are excluded. It's almost like a private club if you really want to know the truth about it.
And you know what? According to what I just read out loud, that the higher up in command want women on the front lines because, not as fodder, but as the working fighting force. Because women, when they get nuts, I'll tell you what, nothing much stands in their way. And they are wonderful warriors. As per Israel, the women, and I live there, the women are just as tough, if not tougher than the men. Honest to God. You don't screw with them, honestly.
Yeah, and again, this is disturbing because we've done shows before with the lady out of Houston, Texas, talking about how she was dealing with the homeless population. And then she added into that equation the veterans that were actually homeless. And we never talked about the sexual assault and things of that nature. So, Dr. Spilken, I venture to say that some people, based on the post-traumatic stress syndrome, along with the rape itself, it's almost impossible for them to revert back to civilian life and live happily ever after with all the things that they have to deal with on a daily basis. Would that be correct?
Darren?
I think Jenny wants you to say something.
Go ahead, Jenny.
When I was in the Air Force from August 87, August 89. My daughter was born with cerebral palsy. I was homeless from December 90 to August 91. There was not one soul in this world that gave a shit about me. So I re-enlisted in 96 so I could support my family. And it happened to me again. And I got forced out of the service again.
Wow.
So, and let me switch the conversation just a little. And this is why I think a lot of these other countries have a problem with this hypocritical country that we're dealing with, because we can go over and tell everybody else how to deal with their evils, but we won't even deal with our evils. Why would a military branch want its very own people to go through all of this corruption and still not get the benefits that they are entitled to? This is unimaginable to me, Dr. Spilken.
You know what, Baron? They go as far as killing the woman. There's a Lavina, who was murdered. Not only was she murdered, she was stripped.
Lavina
she
Johnson.
was dragged through the... Excuse me?
Lavina Johnson.
Yes. Her father was a psychologist for the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Begged her not to go in, but she wanted to start a career and follow her dad. She was found with pebbles and rocks, being dragged behind a vehicle, hands that were shown as with chains still on them.
Mm-hmm.
She was put in a tent and they started a fire. And when
And they said that she committed suicide.
no, yeah, well, you know what? They're saying that women who have been shot in the head, the women whose head was shot, they actually did it themselves by putting their toe in the gun. Now, give me a break.
Right.
Exactly. So there's, you know what? In terms of Lavina Johnson, Ike Skelton from Missouri, and Colonel Wright, a woman, Colonel Wright from, I'm not sure, do you know where, Jenny, she's from?
No.
She actually, they told them to can it.
Mm-hmm.
Powers that be in the military. They said, stop investigating.
Mm-hmm.
They shut the whole thing down. Now...
Well, look how they treated Maria Lauterbach, the pregnant Marine that was found buried in a barbecue pit. You know, she told everybody she was raped and nobody believed her.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and she
they
was
believed
murdered
her,
and she
but
was pregnant.
You know what? They believed her so much that they killed her.
Right.
Because she would have gone
the
state evidence.
perpetrator killed her.
Yep.
And he buried her in his backyard under his barbecue pit.
Oh, my God. Well,
you know, and then he escaped to Mexico.
Yep.
Was there a caller?
Did they ever catch him?
Go ahead, caller.
He's being prosecuted or he's in jail. I haven't followed the story.
Okay, let me let the other caller come in. Go ahead, caller.
Ben, this is Todd Stapleton again.
Hey, Todd.
The day that we will be in D.C. on the Hill.
Okay.
Is the 7th of April.
April the 7th.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Spilken, we need to make sure that everybody that's out there listening, because the mass media, social media is a powerful tool. And if we start hashtagging this, start sharing this, start putting it out there, eventually somebody is going to listen, because there's always somebody out there who's trying to rise up the ranks. But what we're looking for is somebody who will rise and defend these people who are innocent and having to deal with all of these things that are going on. I'm going to make sure that we find something. We can even write or have you guys write a blog on the WordPress about the April the 7th. We can put that information out there. We can bring on guests. We can continue to bring on guests from you guys' organization, because remember, our goal is to allow your voice to be heard and make a difference. Because what happens is this. When people that don't know what's going on, they hear what's going on, one of three things we're trying to do: inspire, engage, and encourage. One or the other, to get them motivated and do something that they otherwise would not be doing. And I'm just appalled that I'm not sure now if when we have high school recruiting days, I'm kind of in the, why should I tell somebody to go and join something, and once they join it, they may or may not get all of the benefits that they are entitled to?
Right. Well, that's why Colonel Wright, not only did she get stopped, but she said, you know what? She's quitting. Number one, she quit. Number two, before she quit, she wanted to put over every recruiting station, women do not enter. Mm-hmm. I refused to let her do that.
Right. Dr. Spilken, we got a message out there. There was a message then that says the general public doesn't know this stuff. And I venture to say that a majority of the population, they just don't know it. And it's up to us to get that information out there.
Well, you invited me to get this information, and what? Good.
Right, yeah.
I'm glad people are listening. I'm thrilled about it. And so is Charles, and so is Jenny.
Yeah, but the thing...
I need to excuse myself.
Hey, Jenny, thanks for calling in. Anytime you feel the need to talk, you're welcome to call into the broadcast. If there's somebody else that's out there who would like to share their message and let their voice be heard, they can get in contact with Dr. Spilken, and they are welcome to come on this broadcast. They are welcome.
And by the same token, I can be invited again by you to finish about the military family. We didn't even get there.
Right.
The military families and what they're going through, which is just as crazy as this part
Thank you, Baron. Thank you, Dr. Spilken.
You are more than welcome.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Spilken.
Thank you.
We definitely can bring you on. As a matter of fact, the administrative assistant will get back in contact with you probably tomorrow because we want as much information as possible. We want to light a fire under the feet, not to start a war, but to let people know that there are some wrongdoings that are going on, and we need to correct these wrongs and make them right. We need to do a better job. Because my belief is this: no means no. It doesn't mean that you think it means yes. It means no.
Right.
So if these females are saying no, then I wouldn't care if you're a full-fledged colonel, if you're a 4-star general. If you violate that person's body, then you need to be convicted of the crime that you committed.
That's right. But,
about a war
it's
crime?
going to take... Excuse me?
And what about the war crime aspect of it and the international repercussions?
Exactly.
You can't prosecute somebody during
speaking
peacetime. A lot of it's happened during peacetime.
So if it's happening during peacetime, then they still can be convicted. They still can be tried as a civilian, right?
No, but don't you understand, Baron, that because it's within the military, it's the fox guarding the hen house, and that's what Senator Gillibrand tried to stop. And you know what? She was not able to, minus 1 or 2 votes. And one of them was from here in Missouri, and the other one I'm not sure, but I can find out for you.
Well, again, my belief is that social media is a powerful tool. And I believe the more people that start talking about this, hashtagging certain things, eventually, when you pour gas on the fire, it's going to catch. So
I hope so.
It's a proven fact unless the gas is diluted with water, which means we have people that are afraid to continue to go forward, because this will be a long, tedious journey. As a matter of fact, if we look at the 60s, the civil rights era, what would have happened if they had given up? What would have happened with voting rights? What would have happened with affirmative action? Had they given up?
It would have been the same thing.
Exactly. So I believe we need to continue to fight this fight, is what I'm saying.
Now, I have one more quote for you, and it's this: "No thief, however skillful, can rob one of knowledge, And that is why knowledge is the best and the safest treasure to acquire. That was by L. Frank Baum.
Okay, and when we speak of that knowledge, if a person has no information regarding the information that we're talking about, then that means that they cannot use any of their knowledge to help, which is why I go back, not to you, Dr. Spilken, but just in general. This message that we're talking about tonight, it does not need to be a one-time thing. This needs to be an ongoing thing. It needs to be as often as necessary. It needs to be sung like those old hymns in the church. They need to be in repetition over and over and over. Because I believe the military's thing is if you repeat something at least 3 times, then a person begins to understand what you're saying.
But you know what? I think that everyone has to understand that unless the corrosion, erosion, the sexual assaults on men as well as women stops, we are not going to have a fight. We're in deep doggy doo-doo.
I agree with you 100%. Do we have another caller that's out there who would like to engage with Dr. Rita Spilken talking tonight about the fabric of military families? You may do so. Ontario, I'm hoping that Mark is not too entrenched with other things going on in the community. We all need to take a stand, contact Christine Gillibrand, definitely Clara McCaskill, and some of the other individuals that's up there on the Hill. Back in April the 2016, we need to make sure that we publicize, we market that event very well. We may be able to get other people to get involved. We have other bloggers that's out there that we contact, talk to on a daily basis. We have Jam Vibe Radio out of Columbia, South Carolina. We have Pastor and soon-to-be Dr. Riggins on Blog Talk Radio. We have Dr. Shirley McKellar, who is a veteran out of the state of Longview, Texas. We have, I believe, Robert Stevens out of Austin, Texas, that's part of the party. So there are people that are out there that we can try to make the connection with and try to get this message a little bit more out there on the mass media circuit. So, Dr. Spilken, I'll allow you the opportunity to give your closing statements. But before I do that, let me open the line one more time and see if there's anybody else who'd like to have a word or a comment. You may do so at this time. Well,
I just want to
go ahead, Charles.
Say one again. I just want to say, Dr. Spilken, thank you so much for the information. Baron, thank you for your program. Thank you for your enthusiasm. And I look for nothing but good things to happen from this.
And Charles, you or your organization or anybody from your organization, if you have anything that's going on that you'd like to get out, again, this opportunity is to not one, it's to all. You can use the Smoking Glass Hour to get your message out, because our number one goal is to make a difference. And we feel if we allow people to have a voice, we can make a difference one by one. So feel free to contact Dr. Spilken. You can contact us on the web. You can call us and let us know, and we'll be glad to bring you or anybody from your organization on to talk about whatever it is that you feel America needs to know about.
Thank
and
you,
I thank you,
that.
Baron, and I thank your assistant, Melinda, again, for being so kind to me. And I know that I bring a message. It's going to take more than one person. It's a lot of people. And that's what they say. It takes all of a community to raise a child. Well, this is more than a child. This is our military that we depend on. And they want and want to defend us. But how can they, being preyed upon themselves?
Right. Dr. Spilken, I can tell you that in the last week or so, we have been in contact with and I'm not sure how the election of 2016 is going to go, but we have made a lot of connections and contacts with the Bernie Sanders camp. And we're going to find some kind of creative way to take the information that you have, that you've shared, and share this information with them. And hopefully Senator Sanders now will bring this information out and start the conversation, because we're going to need brave individual people that's out there who is running for office, who's willing to run for office, and that's where our money needs to go, rather than continuing to go to the career politicians who are brought out by Wall Street, Main Street, and all those other streets that's out there with the money.
And all I can say to that is amen.
Well, I'll tell you, we're looking at about 8:51 p.m. Central Standard Time. Tonight we have been talking with Dr. Rita Spilken out of Springfield, Missouri, talking tonight topic, the fabric of the military families. Dr. Spilken, thanks for all of your time. We will bring you back on so you can get out all this other information when she looks at the calendar and find out what date we have open. Rather than do it for an hour, what we'll do is we'll go on schedule if need for the full 2 hours, and that way we'll know we'll have enough time. We'll be able to continue to get it publicized. And by the way, as soon as this program ends, you can go and share it either on text message, you can share it by email, you can share it by social media, LinkedIn, Tumblr, YouTube, however you want to share it. It's MP3 format. You can send it to anybody on this planet. You can even send it to Christine Gillibrand. You can send it to Clara McCaskill. You can send it to anybody that's on Capitol Hill in the 50 states and abroad, because we want to make sure that tonight's topic, the fabric of the military families with Dr. Rita Spilken, that the word gets out so we can continue to make a difference. Once again, 2016, we're focusing on social justice, human rights, the Republican and the Democratic presidential election. In 2015, we brought you local and state elections up to the minute. Each and every broadcast Thursday nights is going to be dedicated to that. We look forward to you guys tuning in with us on Thursday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. By the way, you can also catch us on live Periscope, live video, if you follow us on Twitter at Baron Glass Hour, or if you want to get up to the minute impromptu speeches and things that's going on, you can text us at 81010 and put in at WMAD, and that will send us information so we'll be able to send you when we're having a live broadcast, because our voice is your voice, and in return, when we all are heard, we can make a difference. You've been listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. Tonight's topic, once again, the fabric of military families with Dr. Rita Spilken out of Springfield, Massachusetts. Dr. Spilken, good night.
Have a good night now, Baron, and you too, Melinda. Bye-bye.
Good night.